This is Power 98.7. And now you're listening to Power Talk with Mbuyiseni Ndlozi, 9 a.m. to midday, taking your calls on 0861 987 000.
Welcome back, Bantwana Benkosi. This is Power Talk with me, Mbuyiseni Ndlozi, on Power 987. I'm going to begin with the National Spokesperson of the Police, Brigadier Athlenda Mathe, to look into that press conference by the General of KZN, General Mkhwanazi. Brigadier, welcome to Power Talk and thanks very much for creating time.
A very good morning to you and to the listeners.
First, just a confirmation that the minister did issue an instruction in a letter to the National Commissioner of the Police on the 31st of December for the disbandment of the political killings unit. Is that true?
Well, thank you for the opportunity. I cannot at this stage comment on what was said during the media briefing. However, what I can say is that it is rather unfortunate that we find ourselves at this point as an organization and as a country. And with due respect, it's not also my space to have an opinion on allegations and accusations involving senior officers and a sitting minister of police. My role is to assure South Africans that the day-to-day policing operations continue and that when they go to police stations across the country, they will be assisted accordingly. And the police are there to respond.
With respect, Brigadier, I'm sure none of us think there's no police work happening in the police stations. Is it not in the public interest for the commissioner to clarify a matter that is actually not related in any way to covert operations of the police? Did the minister give any instruction on the 31st of December for the disbandment of the political killings unit or not?
You will appreciate, Mr. Ndlozi, that this morning, as early as 5 o'clock in the morning, we have issued a press statement highlighting, obviously, the normal day-to-day policing operations that continue. But we also announced that the National Commissioner will be taking the nation into his confidence this week by firstly addressing some of the issues that are in the public domain, as you are discussing, but also to appoint an acting divisional commissioner of crime intelligence. So it's not that the National Commissioner is silent. We have announced that he will be briefing the nation either today or later on this week.
All right. Are you then able to confirm that there was a freezing, an instruction to not make any appointments to the crime intelligence posts?
Well, if such communique happens, those are internal departmental matters that only the National Commissioner would be able to discuss in the public domain. Remember, before I discuss any issue, which is an internal issue, it's an internal operational decision that is made, I would have to then engage and get permission from authority to discuss it in the public domain. Any operational decision is an internal matter that should remain internal, and it's discussed within the necessary divisions.
Okay, you are unable to tell us anything, essentially. So we should wait for the Commissioner's press conference. When is it taking place?
Like I've indicated, either today or later on this week. It might be tomorrow. But what is important is that Operation Shonela is continuing. Members of the SAPS are hard at work. We continue with the mandate and work of the police throughout the country. All
right, Brigadier, we'll wait for the press conference. Thanks very much indeed.
Thank you.
All right. The spokesperson is unable to... That is essentially the point of departure. I'm with my favorite person here, Chad. How are you?
Always good to see you, Doc.
Always
you're one
good
of
to
my
see you
favorites.
too.
And all the ladies in the office said, I have to send greetings. And they want to know when you're coming past.
The ladies. I will come past. But you have confirmation. You have seen the letter of the 31st of December, where the minister instructs the disbandment of the political killings unit.
That letter was issued on the 31st of December. It was a strange day to issue it. It was a day before the new year. It's a day when everybody's in holiday mode. The letter was most definitely issued. It was issued from the minister to the NASCOM, and in it were certain instructions that had to be followed. Some of it pertained to intelligence. Some of it pertained specifically to the political killings task team.
The second one is the taking of the dockets. But maybe let me play Mkhwanazi's clip as a point of departure to tease one by one the claims. Let's take a listen.
Happening in KZN as well as in the Republic of South Africa. So I'm presenting this briefing to the citizens of this province, and by extension, the inhabitants of the Republic of South Africa, specifically about the work of the political killings task team. It's been spoken about a lot, I'm sure you know that. Let me give a bit of a background about this political killings task team. In 2018, the President of the Republic, His Excellency President Ramaphosa, established the Interministerial Committee, which we refer to as IMC, which consists of the Ministers of Police, the Minister of State Security, the Minister of Defense, the Minister of Justice and Correctional Services, and Correctional Development. These ministers were given a task by the President to ensure that they deal with matters of security nature that affect political leadership in this province. You will recall that the minister had visited the family of the late Musawenkosi Ndlozi Mchunu in Placesley in Pietermaritzburg in May 2018. It was then where this IMC was established by the President. So it is a committee of ministers, not a police-directed operation, but a committee that involved different departments. The IMC at the time met and listened to the investigation report that was presented, the so-called political task team that was established before them. And the observation, amongst others, was that the task team was working in silos. It was compromised, and that it did not have any investigation as well as a prosecutorial plan or strategy. As a result, there was a little or no progress in the investigation and prosecution of these cases. A decision was therefore taken by the IMC to establish a national integrated multidisciplinary task team, which consists of the South African Police Service, the National Prosecuting Authority, NPA, supported by both state security as well as correctional services, which commenced its work in July of 2018 to implement the now tried and tested analysis-led and prosecution-driven investigation strategy. As a result of the excellent performance, the political killings task team has been assigned in another presidential intervention project. I can name the few: the killing of the traditional leaders in the province of KwaZulu-Natal, as well as the murders that happened in the University of Fort Hare in the Eastern Cape. Since the establishment of this political killings task team in July 2018, the team has been investigating a total of 612 case dockets. These case dockets include murders, attempted murders, intimidation, conspiracy to commit murders, and other cases. A total of 436 suspects were arrested and charged. 156 firearms were recovered, of which 55 of them were linked directly with ballistically through our forensic testing to the political related cases. An additional 35 suspects who are members of the South African Police Service were arrested. The notable one is the one who's now in prison, who's been working with the parliamentarian who was involved in the matter, about the murder of one Sindiso Magaka. We're going to talk about that later. A total of 128 accused were found guilty on 106 cases. 29 accused were sentenced to life in prison. 40 accused were sentenced between 10 to 35 years. 25 accused were sentenced between 1 to 9 years. 23 accused were sentenced between 3 to 12 months. And there's quite a lot of awaiting trial prisoners that are going to be finalized in a few weeks. So a total of sentences that is total number of years that has been given, if I add all of them, amounts to about 1,801 years of imprisonment. This is the work done by the team since 2018 to date that have led into the successful prosecution because of this integration working between the SAPS and the prosecution. On the 26th of March 2025, this year, a total of 121 case dockets that were under investigation were taken away from the task team as directed by a Deputy National Commissioner Crime Detection, a Lieutenant General Sibia, who was acting on the instruction of the Minister of Police to disband the team. This was done without the authority of the National Commissioner, nor I, as a Provincial Commissioner, was never informed. These case dockets have since March been sitting at the head office ever since, without any investigation work done on them. 5 of these dockets had already instruction to arrest perpetrators, but nothing has been done because a Lieutenant General Sibia, being instructed by the minister, or well, executing instruction of the minister, withdrew all these dockets and they're sitting in archive in his office in Pretoria.
Power Talk with Mbuyiseni Ndlozi, where your voice is heard and opinion matters.
The general makes a full report, so to speak. 612 cases, 156 firearms, 55 of them linked to political killings. 35 of the 436 suspects are police. 128 of them found guilty. And 29 life sentences. 40 of them 10 to 35 years. 25 of them 1 to 9 years. 23 of them 3 to 12 months. He says a combined sentence of years that equal to 1,801 years of imprisonment. 129 of the remaining dockets are taken by General Sibia and are sitting there. I just want to read the final paragraph that disbands this political. This is the record of the task team. And the task team includes the SEPS, multidisciplinary unit, SEPS, NPA, SSA, Correctional Services. The minister says in 2019 a directive was made to the National Commission of Police following the Moerane Commission report, even though not following directly from such an interministerial task force to be established. The key mandate was to stop, investigate, resolve unresolved matters of politicians in the country, especially in KwaZulu-Natal. My observation in this regard, as indicated above, is that further extensive of this team is no longer required, nor is it adding any value to the policing in South Africa. I therefore direct the political killings task team to be disbanded immediately. Further, that preliminary report in this regard be submitted to the minister by 30th of January. The final and closing report must be submitted to the ministry late January, and the date which will be communicated as soon as possible. Why would you disband a team with such a record?
I think that's the question everybody wants answered, and I think it's the most important aspect of all of this. You have a minister claiming that this is a unit that is no longer needed, and you have a few months later, in fact 7 months to be precise, the provincial commissioner coming and saying, actually, that was a successful unit. For me, that investigates organized crime, one of the issues that we've discovered is a symbiotic relationship between all organized crime in respect of issues like murder for hire, CIT heists, ATM bombings. So when you hire somebody to take somebody out, that person may work for a taxi boss. He may be rented out to somebody to take out somebody in the entertainment industry. He may be rented out to take somebody out in politics. It's become a very mercenary industry. Murder for hire has become exceptionally profitable in South Africa. Before, when taxi owners had these izinkabi, it was to settle their own disputes. They then realized they could monetize it. They could hire out these soldiers to all these different crime syndicates. So now you see this nexus of organized crime and politics coming together.
Let's start with the first four names, well, three in my list that are of critical importance that were mentioned here. Vusi Matlala. Who is this?
Vusi Matlala is an exceptionally controversial individual. He's currently incarcerated, awaiting trial. He'll be appearing in the Alexandra Magistrates Court. He has a checkered past. Despite that, he was able to register with CIRA. He had a security company. He drove in one of these white light cavalcades and is known to be very connected in both the underworld as well as with politicians. In fact, it's been said that a gang operating in Pretoria, in one of the more well-known townships that call themselves Boko Haram, is actually under his control.
In Mamelodi.
That's correct. So Vusi Matlala comes to the table as a very controversial individual, somebody who's under investigation over the years, and then somehow or other manages to land in June and July of 2024 the SAPS wellness contract. And the SAPS wellness contract is critical. It makes sure that the medical certificates are issued on an annual basis for all police officers. Medical certificates and examinations are done for all members entering the police, and they are part of the boarding process for police officers that are suffering from some or other ailment or stress. This tender gets awarded to a company with zero foundation in respect of the provision of those services.
It would be whose decision for such an award to happen? Is it the commissioner, national commissioner?
It would be the SAPS decision. SAPS have their own procurement division. They have their own tender and bid committees. But of course, when you're talking about a tender of that magnitude, there would have to be input from other role players and stakeholders. But strictly speaking, it should be a SAPS procurement decision.
We've got Jeff Wicks joining us as well. Hello, Jeff.
Hello, Doc.
How are you?
Well, and yourself?
Thanks very much. You have anything to add on Matlala?
Yeah, no, I think Chad has summed it up quite succinctly. You know, he managed to reinvent himself after being blighted by the Tembisa hospital scandal. You know, murdered whistleblower Babito Deocran was actually the first to put him on the map, identifying 3 of his shell companies that were part of a larger syndicate activity at that hospital. And then, whilst under investigation for procurement fraud, he lands this tender, which speaks volumes about the SAPS's procurement due diligence process. But that notwithstanding, he had the tender for less than a year before the wheels totally came off. We've done quite a bit of reporting on his profligate spending and the lavish lifestyle he managed to keep up whilst this tender was falling apart. And it was eventually cancelled in May, shortly before he was arrested for the Tobajane matter. So many scandals sort of underpin this story.
Precisely. Were you able to trace the decision of the award of the SAPS tender? At which level and who would be involved? Is the National Commissioner having to sign on it? Is the Minister having to sign on it?
So the procurement was handled in-house by the police's SCM division. As accounting officer, General Fani Masemola is the ultimate responsibility for awarding this tender. He signed the award. And what our investigation has shown is that there were red flags on this tender from the very beginning. At the end of January, Fani Masemola was warned that there was so many irregularities in the award of this process that any money spent would be declared irregular, and he was urged to take legal advice on how to cancel that contract. It took him 105 days to act and eventually cancel the contract, but in that intervening time, a further 30 million rand was paid to Matlala's company. And if the timing is correct, from Mkhwanazi's briefing yesterday, when Mogotsi said to him, "Get your invoices in," that was with a certain amount of meaning or credence.
What charges is he facing?
So Mr. Matlala's tender award is under investigation by IDAC. They are looking at the award of that tender from a process perspective. In court, he's facing 3 charges of attempted murder related to the attempted assassination of Thobejane. He's also facing money laundering charges in relation of how he allegedly paid the hitmen to eliminate her, and then also defeating the ends of justice charges for how he is accused of trying to cover his tracks thereafter.
And then, just for the benefit of the audience, who is Thobejane?
So Thobejane is an actress and socialite and influencer. Not that I really get involved in that sphere very much, but how she's germane to this story is that she was in a secret relationship with Matlala between 2021 and 2022, and they had a falling out. So it's your classic love triangle because Mr. Matlala was married at the time. And then, obviously, if the state's case against him proves true, he took steps to take her out after that relationship soured.
So, because she was a potential witness?
I would never speculate. I've not seen the statement, but it does appear that the team investigating this, and this is where it becomes important, the Gauteng Provincial Organised Crime Unit, augmented by the Political Killings Task Team, seemed to make a significant amount of headway in the Thobejane case, which had essentially gone cold for 2 years. They revived it. They picked up the ballistic analysis, which linked the shooters to the Vereeniging case, and now we've got these accused people before court. If the new roiling of the SAP's top management structure compromises that would be a significant travesty.
Let's take the headlines and then we'll go back. We'll come back to speak to the other important names mentioned by the journalist. 10:30 here on Power Talk. We're going to take the headlines with Nyaka Lotefu. Stay tuned.
Stay informed. Power Talk with Mbuyiseni Ndlozi, 9 a.m. to midday on Power 98.7.
Welcome back, Bantwana Benkosi. We are still teasing out the press statement by the KZN Provincial Commissioner of the South African Police Service, Utata Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. So, Vusi Matlala. I don't know, Jeff, if you were done, you wanted to complete as to who Mr. Matlala is.
No, I think we've discussed it. Unless you have further questions.
Yes, I wanted to ask Chad the relationship, if any, between Matlala and Sibia.
Mkhwanazi's really thrown a cat amongst the pigeons. When Vusi Matlala was not able to perform on the contract provided to him for SAP's wellness, he didn't have the mobile clinics, he didn't have the facilities. He started making use of the facilities at the Pretoria West Police Training College. And when asked where he got permission for that, it was stated that he got permission from General Sibia. Whether this is in fact speculation or rumor, it's unknown, but that is what came out of that. And that was a very interesting disclosure to make, because why would Sibia be involved in giving somebody a facility to use if that person didn't have the facilities that was awarded the tender in the first place? So it seemed at that point that Vusi Matlala may have inadvertently thrown Sibia under the bus by making that statement. Whether there was any truth to that statement, it needs to be tested, but there are other linkages that we see emerging.
What could the general be speaking, or who could the general be speaking of when he says the political task team, the 10 individuals that he forwarded helping the Gauteng efforts to uncover the drug syndicate, then in the circulation of communication between the minister, Brown Mogotsi, they tell somebody who that the team that was trying or that was harassing you has been disbanded as I speak. Who is this criminal that they were communicating about?
There's a few. We've heard the name Brown, who I don't have much detail on. We've heard the name Katie Molefe. If it's the same Katie Molefe, he's one of those that's currently on trial for both murder and attempted murder, all linked to Vusi Matlala and to others. And like I mentioned to you earlier, forms part of that nexus of organized crime and politics somehow dovetailing. What's of grave concern, of course, is the fact that these murder-for-hire syndicates were operating without much fear until such time as this team of dedicated members at risk of their own life with protection from the Special Task Force actually started joining the dots and started making the arrests.
Jeff, are you able to confidently say who is the criminal that either had been harassed or that Brown Mogotsi is mentioning in the WhatsApps?
It's very difficult to make a definitive call of only a portion of the conversation. But what I believe he's talking about is Mr. Matlala. Now, something that wasn't mentioned in the briefing, but is important context, is that Mr. Matlala was raided and questioned in regards to a kidnapping in December.
Yeah.
And as you will know, the anti-kidnapping task force sits in crime intelligence, the same basis for the political killings task team. So when you understand that context and you read that message saying the team that was harassing you will be disbanded soon, then it seems to make some sort of sense, although it's hard to say with any sort of certainty.
And Katiso Molefe, who is Katiso Molefe?
Katiso Molefe is another character that we've been dealing with from last year. We've been covering the assassination of Armand Swart, who was an engineer who was actually murdered in a case of mistaken identity. And as Mkhwanazi said, that case is sort of the genesis of this, because all of the shooters, or the alleged shooters, were arrested on the same day, and it's these same men who were arrested or then later linked to the Lt-Gen Mathe and Matlala. But Katie Molefe is a businessman. He lives in Sandton, and he's supposedly the mastermind behind this murder. And that murder took place 3 weeks after the company where that fellow worked filed a whistleblowing report about a Transnet tender which was inflated by nearly 5,000%. So what it tells us is that there's definitely links to organized crime and the illicit economy, and we're seeing many links being drawn from these key characters, and they are then tied to either politicians or high-ranking cops. And
this KT Molefe, is as a businessman, is he in prison or is he on the streets?
So he was denied bail in the magistrate's court, and then in a very strange occurrence last week on Friday, he was actually granted bail in review in the High Court.
Wait. When was he arrested and for what?
He was arrested in the beginning of December in connection with the murder of Swart and the Transnet tender inflation, and he sat inside over Christmas. He applied for bail, and the magistrate felt that he was a flight risk. Obviously, he took that matter on review to the High Court in Pretoria last week and was granted bail on Friday. So as of this morning, Mr. Molefe is free while awaiting trial.
And the charges relate to this Transnet inflated tender of Springs or something.
That was the catalyst which set in motion a murder. The charges relate to a count of murder, several counts of attempted murder, money laundering, and organized crime charges.
And then the final character then is Brown Mogotsi. I don't know, Chad, if you want to take start on this one. Who is Brown Mogotsi?
I think everybody's trying to find out who Brown is, and I'm hoping Jeff can fill us in, because when that name was mentioned a number of times by Gen Mkhwanazi, everybody went into overdrive trying to find out more about this fellow. Our deep dive hasn't uncovered as much as one would have expected, but I'd love to hear if Jeff has found out anything
Jeff,
about him.
Do you know anything?
I mean, he sounds. I'm not able to assist as well.
He sounds like a politician from the account, because the video, the visual that Mkhwanazi is speaking about, where the minister is caught on the phone or something. He says, "A comrade of mine from the northwest."
He is going to be a central figure in this, and I think in as much as Chad is working on it, we're working on it too. We're trying to understand everything there is about everyone in this picture to bring people at least closer to the truth, we hope.
Okay, and Why would the general choose this route? In his entire submission, he doesn't say, I've reached out to the president. He doesn't say he has written on several occasions to either the Speaker of Parliament or maybe these bodies that supervise the police, IPID. Why would he choose the route of coming out completely in public, accuse the minister, accuse Sibiya, literally call him a criminal?
Well, I don't speak to the general, so
we're
really
speculating all of us. In this case, we're all analyzing.
So let me make a stab at analysis. I think everyone understands the fate of whistleblowers in the South African context. The law is not supportive in their favor for making protected disclosures. And if anything, I think this is something of a masterstroke to push these allegations into the public domain beyond confidential letters and missives and protected disclosures. And this is going to force accountability and force a closer look at this entire saga.
What's your take, Chad?
Well, I so agree with Jeff. What happens behind closed doors, unfortunately, stays behind closed doors. This is something that needed to be outed a long time so that there can be a reckoning within the South African Police Service, and in particular, their very factionalized and fractured leadership. I think it was necessary. Whether he followed protocol or not is now irrelevant. What is relevant is that the allegations have to be tested. And he presented what he termed to be prima facie evidence of an empirical nature during the presentation, which means that he wasn't spreading rumor, he wasn't spreading gossip. He was saying, this is my understanding of what's happened.
But
this
Chad,
is what I believe.
He hasn't shared the evidence in the public. He is referring to it, but we haven't seen the WhatsApp texts.
We'll send it to you.
Oh, so you, so all of you've got it. So you have seen, Jeff, the evidence that the general was referring to. The evidence.
Yes, all of the screenshots. Well, I mean, evidence. I mean, that word can mean many things. But he supported his assertions with screen grabs, supposedly taken directly from Kat Matlala's phone. So I mean, that lends it a bit of import. But again, we'll see when there's a full accounting of the scandal.
And Chad, you agree? This is a proper prima facie case that the general has made.
I don't think he would fall on his sword for something he didn't believe so strongly about. The fact is that...
I'll give you an example. There is an inaccuracy in relation to Senzo that he makes. That the January 8th party or whatever of the ANC, rally of the ANC, which took place, Jeff, in Cape Town, that I think Matlala would have paid for the minister's travels. Do you remember that claim?
I think what Mkhwanazi was saying, that he paid for several individuals to attend that function.
Which included the minister.
I don't know if he included the minister in that. I think blanketed by saying supporting his political ambitions.
I see.
But I don't think he made any conclusive determination.
Because we all know the minister was not in Cape Town on that day. There was a police officer that was killed and he had a funeral to attend in KwaZulu-Natal. I'm just thinking the linking to that particular event of the ANC already circumstantially, it doesn't place the minister in Cape Town, so to speak. But yeah, Chad, you can conclude. I mean, if he doesn't, then why call Sibiya a criminal without substance in this case? He didn't support the claim of saying Sibiya is a criminal, but he called him a criminal.
It could be from a level of frustration. He spoke about a meeting that was convened by the NASCOM, Masemola, to try garner or create some peace between himself and Sibiya. And he then referred to the fact that how can a policeman make peace with a criminal? It's a serious allegation to make. Sibiya has never been far from controversy. And we can see people coming out now trying to spin this in some way or another, trying to do damage control. You have Paul O'Sullivan preaching loud and proud wherever he possibly can that Mkhwanazi is at fault. Mkhwanazi should never have been in his special task force uniform. Mkhwanazi should never have said these things. He didn't follow protocol and he should be fired, and that O'Sullivan's now going for him. But you must remember, about 12 years ago, it was O'Sullivan that made a statement in support of Sabir when other allegations had been made against Sabir, where he came out and fought for Sabir. So it seems like he's continuing the fight. And whether or not this is spinning or whether or not he's doing it out of a sense of loyalty and he genuinely respects Sabir, O'Sullivan is now making this all about Mkhwanazi and not looking at the very serious allegations that Mkhwanazi has made.
And what were the allegations in relation to Sabir? I mean, why would the general, is he angry about the 129 dockets that he claims are sitting at Sabir in his office, and some of those, there were at least 5 had instructions of arrest? 5 of those 129 dockets. Is it that, or he really just believes? I mean, because if Sabir is sitting on dockets and an arrest, that is a crime. It's defeating the ends of justice. So might he be thinking about all these other related accusations that Sabir has been going through? I don't know, Jeff, if you want to have a bite on Sabir. Jeff is playing music for us. Okay, Chet.
Wow, like I said, a cat amongst the pigeons, and everybody has to now nail their colours to the post.
Yeah.
Because this is what it's become. It shows how divisive it is. It's a sad day when we see such factionalised and fractured policing in our country. There are definitely bad elements within the police. Mkhwanazi has started the discussion, and we need to make sure that it's in the open, it's transparent. And I think what we should be talking about is what action the president takes, and whether he brings in the Inspector General of Intelligence, the Office of the DPCI Judge, IPID, and perhaps brings in a inspecting judge for the police, like they did with prisons, where they used Justice Cameron very successfully. But we can't have another commission of inquiry. Our country's tired of that. We can't spend the money. We can't wait for months and months.
But
and
if
months.
it's judicial, it can. I mean, the Vusi one had huge, consequences and impact on the direction of the National Prosecuting Authority. It seems to me that there's other tests, the other claims which certainly he didn't give or provide any backing. The involvement of the magistracy, or it's that the magistracy in Gauteng is on, or is also compromised by the drug cartel and syndicates that are operating here that were uncovered, as well as the National Prosecuting Authority. And not so long ago, the head of the NPA spoke about political interference into the work of the National Prosecuting Authority. This is the second and a very, very senior person making these claims, but he didn't seem to provide, unless you guys have evidence from him. Those claims have not been supported by the general.
I think that's the whole purpose of bringing it out into the public, to say that there are going to be no sacred cows going forward. I think it's very important to understand that organized crime will thrive in a disorganized law enforcement community. And we've seen that. Organized crime, as I mentioned previously in today's insert, has compromised and has a relationship with political figures as well as people within the law enforcement cluster. There are most definitely compromised police officers, compromised prosecutors, and we have even seen magistrates prosecuted. Whether or not they form part of this nexus of, should we say, bad actors, or go as far as to say nexus of evil, because crime is inherently evil. When you see that South Africa ranks in the top 10 and in some instances the top 5 of the worst violent crimes in the world, one has to ask ourselves the question, is it because people are lining their pockets at the expense of South African lives? So everything Mkhwanazi said, whether he can justify it or not, has opened up the dialogue. And whether he has the evidence or not, and I sincerely hope he has the evidence and that it becomes public, we've needed to have this dialogue, not the national dialogue the president's talking about, Not another commission of inquiry that's going to cost us R1 billion, but we need to ensure that people are held to account. There's a transparent process and we can see what's going to happen with this.
Jeff, what do you think the way forward should be? The president is landing today from Brazil. What would be an efficient response to Mkhwanazi's press conference?
It's a very difficult question to answer, Doc. You know, I'm not a politician. All I do is follow the money.
Are you suggesting I should answer it?
No. I mean, we can speculate, but what we require is action and accountability, and this is a process that needs to play out in public. We don't see it as a standard status quo from the side because they do operate with a certain veil of secrecy. It's going to require the president to have some spinal fortitude and to act with haste because this is a serious problem.
It seems to me there is a layer of politics. The general chair speaks about politicians in parliament, politicians being supported by Matlala and all of that. It seems to me also what we may have to put in mind, I don't know if you are able to speculate in that direction. These conferences of the ANC require a lot of money. Like if, for instance, one wants to be the Secretary General, if one wants to be the president, if one wants to be in the top 7 these days. And it is clear we have to say who's funding these campaigns and where do they get the money because we're talking billions from what we saw with the CR17 bank statements. Do you think this might have to do with people trying to raise that kind of money?
Before I get to that point, I just want to say I'm banking the term spinal fortitude. What an incredible term, and let's hope that the president does show backbone. So thank you for that, Jeff. I'm going to lock that one away and use it. It's a lovely term. Let's go back to Polokwane. Let's go back to Mangaung. Let's go back to Nasrec. Let's look at Mangaung conference in particular. There was a huge deployment of crime intelligence on the ground, and they said it was because of a threat from the far right. We later found out that there may have been the illegal use of CI slush funds to fill brown envelopes for delegates to choose certain individuals. There's always been this rumor that certain slush funds get used to fund certain things. We saw the blood on the dance floor at Polokwane. We saw the outcome of Mangaung. We've seen the outcome of Nasrec 1 and 2. It's an interesting dynamic to explore further because it does cost a lot of money to be able to buy votes. So not everybody is a multi-millionaire that can throw their hats in the ring. We've got Patrice Motsepe, who's apparently looking at doing it. He's got money. We had Ramaphosa. He's got money. We've seen the CR17 campaign. But when people don't have money, where do they get the money from? Well, it talks to the symbiotic relationship between bad actors.
And then the final question for me relates then to what actions. I mean, General Sibia is very angry. Athlenda didn't want to nail her colors on the mast, but General Sibia is not withholding. He's not holding back. I mean, he has hit back. In relation to him, what kinds of remedy is available, or what kind of remedy is available to him?
He's obviously going to lodge a grievance, and they're going to want to take some other action against Mkhwanazi for not following protocol. This could be career ending for a lot of people, including Sibia. So Sibia has to come out fighting, and he has to defend the rumor, the speculation, the allegations that be made against him, as well as being called outright by somebody of the same rank a criminal. It's a very serious thing for the Deputy National Commissioner, who is in charge of the most important division of detection, to be called a criminal. So he's going to carry on swinging. He's going to carry on fighting. And let's hope that this gets resolved to the benefit of the citizens, not to the benefit of those that seek to use the state for their own personal gain.
The final one, and I think we'll have time. I mean, it's just 2 minutes. An hour is never enough. Is the opening critique you gave, which I think is very important because it is not a coincidence that the network of assassins was largely in KwaZulu-Natal, because there is historical linkages to the indiscriminate distribution of weaponry by the old order, by the apartheid regime, and the setting up of actual killing units, assassination squads. Do you think these assassination squads have survived this long, and all along they've been in service initially of the, as you said, the taxi bosses, and then political killings, and now they are fully in function, not just in KwaZulu-Natal, but also here?
I think the culture still exists. It's not necessarily the same people from the early 90s where we saw ANC SDUs, the UDM and the IFP at war with one another, and that peace was only brokered after the 94 election. There are a lot of arms caches down there. It's become a hereditary thing where somebody is Izinkabi, their sons and their nephews may become Izinkabi, and they get trained in the art of being Izinkabi. But what we see now is taxi bosses and other bad actors are actually buying security companies to fund private armies to fight proxy wars for them. And now, as I mentioned to you, they've monetized this. They now rent out this capacity that they've created to other bad actors. So if you've got a business dispute, it's easier to sort it out with the bullet than by going to court. So it definitely exists as a culture, and it's expanded out of KwaZulu-Natal. And we know who these bad players are, but there hasn't been accountability, and I think this is why there's such a frustration, because if you've got people that are performing hits on politicians, are the same people that are going to perform hits on whistleblowers, on investigators, on rival businessmen, and I think that's where the frustration from Mkhwanazi comes.
It's 1100 hours, Bantwana Benkosi, here on Power Talk. And thanks very much, Chad and Jeff, who have managed to help us. We're going to follow this matter, obviously, very closely, looking at the president's reaction as well as the National Commissioner of the Police, Ntate Masemola. How are they going to deal with the allegations made by the general? Dismissing Mkhwanazi is not a solution. I hope that for once we get to deal with the substance. It's time for the news. Stay tuned with Nyakalotefu.